and welcome back to another part of the September reset. We are part makes my fingers do magical things. The green screen completely fell off the wall today, so we'll keep working on that. Maybe I'll just paint this room green, and it can be one massive green screen. Then I won't have to worry about it. Or I could just paint it a nice color, and then I wouldn't need to blur my background or put a green screen on anyway. But hey ho. The other ones are now up online. The PDF is up online, and I will make sure that those that haven't got access to the online membership side where you can get the replays and things, that we get that sorted out. It's meant to happen today. And the fun thing about trying to do your house up on a zero budget means that when something comes up with a zero price tag, you have to run really quickly. And when it's turf, you then have to lay it really quickly. So some of my admin time got eaten up by fighting with a sprinkler and laying turf. Fingers crossed it takes, and then it'll have been worth it. So far what we have looked at is our long-term and short-term to-do lists and how we are doing them at the moment. Like, is it working for us? What adjustments do we need to make, etc., etc. We then looked at our stop, start and stretch habits lists, and that's the one that's got the PDF support as well. Last night was all about our morning routine, and this evening is all about our evening routine. Funnily enough though, even though I haven't finished deciding on my morning routine, my new morning routine, partly because we're still working out times and drop-offs and things like that, but also, as I said yesterday, it's really important to give yourself a chance to think it through, but also consider how your evening routine fits with that morning routine. But straight away I found myself reaching for the habits and the bits that I had already said, well, I'd quite like to include these. So I remembered, proud of me, I remembered to take water to bed with me so that I could drink my water and take my tablets on time as soon as I wake up. I remembered to turn the noisy bit of my alarm off and just wake up with the sunrise alarm clock, which was lovely. Still had my phone with me, can't lie, but we'll get working on that. I need to actually put a charger in the office so I can charge it somewhere else. And then this morning, I had the breakfast that I want to have as part of my morning routine. So I was quite pleased with myself with that. But sometimes you just that thinking about it, you start incorporating. It's like gets into your subconscious that you've decided that these habits are going to be in your life, and they start creeping in already. But still far from perfect. But but I was quite excited that some have crept in. So there's going to be a fair bit of crossover from what we talked about last night, which hopefully means this will be quicker, allowing us to then ponder and ponder both of them together. But evening routine, I go through the same process as we did with morning routine. So starting that, writing down what's the current evening routine, what does it normally look like, how late is it, how late are things getting, are you not getting the dishes done before you go to bed? That might not be a problem, but it will reflect then in your morning routine. If you have a very busy morning, you might think, actually, I really need to incorporate that into my evening routine. We now realize that the quick setting on our dishwasher is like 45 minutes, so it does everything. So if I put that on as we're getting ready to go to bed, it's finished making all its noise by the time we're actually going to sleep. And it uses less water than washing up by hand anyway. So even if it's not completely full, it's better to do that than wash it by hand. So started incorporating, always making sure, like right before I go and do teeth and everything like that, that I put the dishwasher on, which is still part of the current. It's probably the only consistent thing in my morning routine, in my evening routine at the moment. But what is it that you currently do? And then, like we did with morning, how does that make you feel? Do you feel like you're sort of going to bed as you're falling asleep? Do you feel like you're consciously making the decision to go to bed? Do you feel like the TV is controlling your life, or that work is controlling your life, or that friends calling you late is controlling your life? Like, what are your feelings around that? Are you going to bed feeling satisfied? Are you going to bed feeling relaxed? Which might mean that if you say, no, actually I go to bed feeling really tense, that maybe you need to incorporate a warm bath a couple of nights a week, or probably not in this weather, maybe a cold bath in this weather, or that you'll need to do that stretching in the evening. Like, what is it that's gonna counterbalance the feelings that you currently have about your evening routine, as we move forward into thinking about our ideal future evening routine. And then we go on, as literally you'll see, even this session mirrors last night's. So we've got the ideal evening routine. So without any of our limitations in place, doing it as exactly as we would like to do it, and none of the restrictions that other people or other things bring into our lives. How would our ideal evening routine be? Like, when would it start? 3 p.m. Everyone leaves me alone from 3 p.m. It's all good. Maybe like 10 past. I'll pick the daughter up from school and talk to her for 10 minutes, and then I can have peace and quiet again. So I'm spent by 3 p.m. But what time would it start? And how would it flow? Would it be very routined and structured, or maybe you're looking more sort of windows of time? So you might have a window of time that is sort of food and dinner, that you use, as opposed to being like, we're going to have dinner at 6:30 every night or whatever it is. You might be like, I want to have dinner between 7 and 9. I want to have eaten my dinner, for example. And then maybe you're going to have a window of time where you're like, I'm going to do some sort of movement. If you have a predominantly office-based desk-based job in an office, I'm all muddled up then. You might have said, you want to have 30 minutes of movement, but again, you have a varying window which allows for, if you want to do a class or if you want to meet a friend for a walk, gets that little bit more flexibility in the evening routine, to have things in windows, whereas in the morning it kind of needs to be, this is the order I do things in, from this time. This is the time I get up, and then I do things in this order, and I leave at this time. You're a bit more, or I start my first client call at this time. It's a bit more regimented. And the evening, I find that windows can work quite nicely. And so I'm going to go to bed between this time and this time, so that you've got, if you're halfway through an episode and it's really good, you've still got that little bit of buffer to finish it. What I actually do as part of my evening routine, I have a go to bed Jess alarm on my phone. I needed to actually say go to bed Jess. I have a go to bed Jess alarm on my phone, that goes off at 9:45, and then I have a 15-minute buffer. So I have to get up from my seat by 10 o'clock, but it means I've got 15 minutes to sort of wrap up whatever it is I'm watching and things. If I'm only 15 minutes into an hour-long episode, then I can wait. But if you're 15 minutes into a half an hour episode, then you want to finish it. So that was my basis of the 15 minutes. But you might choose to have a longer window, or if you are not very good at going to bed at a reasonable time, is that you might need to set a slightly earlier alarm, so that you've then got, I've been told to go to bed, I'll build up the momentum within the next half an hour to get moving. But you know you better. There are these magical unicorn people in the world that can get an alarm and act on it straight away. And I'm like, no, particularly when it's go to bed, Jess, I need a buffer. So I like my little 15-minute window to be like, particularly if you're like halfway through an ice cream, why would you, like, you're not going to leave it. You need 15 minutes to finish the ice cream. I haven't quite a lot of ice cream at the moment, can't I? Vegan Ben and Jerry's is on offer in Tesco's as well at the moment. Makes it cheaper than the Tesco own brand one. Might have a pot of that in the freezer for this evening. Then thinking about our limitations. What actual limitations do we have? The obvious one being what time we need to get up the next morning. So understanding, that's why we do morning first. So what time do you need to get up? Do you have to get up the next morning? Will impact what time you need to go to bed. If you know where windows, I think some people go up to 10. I think the lowest they've said is 6. If you go under 6, it's particularly unhealthy. But there's a few people that actually, if they have more than 6 in one block, that it can has a funny impact. So if you know your ideal length of time, go with that. If you don't, go with the 8 hours. But work back from that time that you need to get up, to what time you need to go to bed. Then you can have a look at it and think, oh, actually, this morning routine I've written for myself means I'm going to bed at 4:30, which doesn't work. And then you need to, that's where we look at adjusting what in the morning routine we need to adjust. Have we decided we're going to get up at 4 a.m. every day? And then we're like, oh, actually, now I know how early bedtime is with a 4 a.m. start. I'm reconsidering. And it might be that you then go, actually, I'd rather go to bed a little bit later. Maybe it is that I'm going to shorten something in the morning routine. But that is obviously like the first limitation, is making sure you get that sleep. I'm a big advocate for sleep. We love sleep. Could it be that you do have late client calls? Could it be that you've got a client or a boss or a something in another time zone? That would be, those kind of limitations would be included. Maybe there's a TV show that you love watching live, or maybe you do a call with someone that does live in a different time zone every week. Or every day. I don't like anyone enough to speak to them every day. Don't think anyone likes me enough to speak to them every day, to be honest, either. Off my kid. She's biased. But what is it? What I'm like drawing a blank on any other limitations I can think of right now. Other limitations on our evenings. Weather, light, I guess that does transition at the moment. Is getting darker earlier. Boo, hiss. Times things are on TV, times shops shut, restaurants close, all those kind of bits and pieces. If part of your evening routine is going out for a restaurant dinner every night, then good on you. Sounds like a lot of effort for me to make a lot of money. But so if that was your jam, then that would be one. Transportation home, like maybe you have to do a car share, so you can't get home as early as you would like to, etc., etc. Evening classes or rehearsals, yes, Christina, great one. So if there's class times and things like that, and that's where those windows of time work quite well. So you could have in your evening routine that you have a window of personal time where you do something that's just for you. It's not for work, it's not for house, it's not for the kids, not for the cats, it's not for the dogs, not for the guinea pigs, whatever it is. It's just for you. And one day that might be an art class, the next day that might be a rehearsal for a choir you're in, or a pantomime you're doing. But you know that each night you're doing something that you've got, given yourself that sort of block of time, that window of time that is your time, where you're not just rushing around getting housework done and things like that. But it might be that you're like, actually, I don't need that every day. I'm going to have that once a week. And like we talked about with considering making it realistic, it might be, yes, I would love to have an hour and a half of me time to meditate every evening, but realistically it's not going to happen. So I'm just going to have one evening a week where I do that, and the other evenings I might have 5 minutes, or I might just have 5 minutes on each evening. Like that's where I make the adjustments. Anything else that you can't change, so maybe you are learning to be a tap dancer and you have an apartment with wooden floors and neighbours below you. There's probably a limit to how late you can do tap dancing practice. And I think about that too. Don't annoy the neighbours too much. So yeah, lots of little bits to think about. I feel like there's often more limitations in our mornings than in our evenings, but bedtime is the big one, as far as I'm concerned, because we want to get that. And then, as before, we want to consider why we're doing each of the things. And as we talked about, that easily can be influenced by other people, is that they're impacting us into making us think, oh, actually I should be doing this and I should be doing that. Also, it can help us discover if there's maybe an alternative that would fit better. So if we understand the reason why we're doing, so why are we, so you decide that every night you want to have a condensed milk bath, because apparently that's meant to be as close to what Cleopatra did to nourish her skin. But actually, time-wise, water-wise, cost-wise, maybe you don't even have a bath. That would be a big limitation on being able to do that. That you decide that you are just going to moisturize your elbows and your knees, because that is a more realistic version. But because you understood why you did that bath, you wanted beautiful, nourished skin like Cleopatra, you can then make the amendments. Whereas if that bath was because you wanted to deal with really sore muscles, you might look at doing something else. You might be like, well, okay, I'm going to treat myself every other week to a massage so that I can get on top of the muscle issue, or I'm going to do stretching and a massage once a month, or whatever it is. But if you know the why behind the thing, you can look for alternatives if that particular thing isn't going to work. It's also quite handy if you get some sort of issue crop up. So sticking with the bath example, you break a limb and you are in a cast, and going in a bath becomes really difficult. If you understand why it is you want to have a bath every day in your evening routine, you can look for an alternative that now can work with the cast you ended up with your arm in, for example. So if you've got the why, it helps you go back to it if something changes in your life that you then, or maybe there's something else you need to incorporate in your evening routine. It helps you make the adjustments later on as well. So it's a good thing to keep. And like I said, with the motivation, understanding your motivation and remotivating yourself when you feel like you've sort of gone a bit wayward. That's better than falling off the track, isn't it? Wayward. Gone off track, just gone a bit wayward. I like that. I might stick with that one. If you go a bit wayward, being able to look back at that why list and understand, or if you're finding something on your evening routine, you're always quite not managing it, going back to that why, and again, either remotivating or helping you choose an alternative that you can go for instead. And last but not least, I said we'd be quicker, we're mildly quicker, only mildly, is then using all of that to build that realistic evening routine. What I find better is to write it without bearing the morning routine in mind, with the exception of the time, and then comparing the two and then making the final adjustments with the two side by side. It can just get a bit much if you're the first time you're putting down what you want to have as your evening routine, that you're also trying to factor in all the morning and things. But get down your provisional realistic evening routine, then compare it to your morning. How does that work? Is there any adjustments that you need to make? Are they looking too overwhelming as a whole? Is it like doing all these habits morning and evening, it's going to feel way too much? And you can look at what your sort of priorities are, and what ones do you want to adjust. Very much making it about being realistic, and it needs to serve you and what you want to get out of it, and not what online gurus say everybody needs. I think the only accurate thing they all agree on, or they should all agree on, is sleep. Actually, I know some of them don't, because they're all like, go to graph, go to bed at 11, get up at 5. So yeah, I don't agree with them at all in any way, shape or form. Get those 8 hours and construct the other ones around. But thinking about how you actually want to feel. What is your evening routine making you feel like? Quite often, like, been getting into bed and I'm like, I feel dirty and gross and like, ugh, and like I've not achieved anything. Whereas literally, if I'd just gone and had a wash before I got into bed, I could have been like, yeah, actually, I can appreciate all I've done today now. It's like that simple adjustment. That's how I want to feel accomplished. I want to feel calm and relaxed, and I don't want to feel like I'm still covered in mud. So that would be nice. It's like it's goals, life goals there. I want to feel like I'm not covered in mud. Those are the things that set you up for the morning. Exactly. Evening routine does exactly set you up for the morning. And so if you are, food is quite an obvious one with this. Any food prep that you can do the night before that makes the morning easier. Particularly when we had other families staying with us for the last few months at our old house. So we had other people also going in the kitchen. So before bed, I would get out all the bits that I could. So anything that didn't need to stay in the fridge or freezer, I'd get out and put it on the side in a little row. Because also then everyone knew that was my little section in the morning. So if they came down before me, they didn't start making a coffee right in the middle of where I needed to be, because my bits were already there. But also I made sure that I put them in an area that was out of the way. So it wasn't, I didn't need a kettle, so I didn't put them near the kettle so that the kettle was free for other people. But having those out, and the mornings where I hadn't done that the night before was always a pain in the butt. It was always that, because then I had to get into cupboards where other people were standing, and it's like just being able to come straight in. And also in the morning, we're not always quite awake, and we just need it to be as simple as possible. And so I quite like to have my first couple of morning routine things to be quite, for want of a better word, brain dead things that require limited mental power. And I can do that more if I've prepped the night before. So like deciding ahead of time what clothes I'm going to put on in the evening. I know it can be a little tricky with the weather. We need to be able to make adjustments, but at the moment it's just hot, isn't it? So it's fine. That's nice and easy. But if you have a little bit of an idea of what you're going to put on, even if it was just your base layers. So in the winter, if you're like, I can't completely decide because it might be raining or it might be snowing, but you're like, right, these are my pants, these are my socks, this is my crop top, bra, vest, whatever it is that you want to wear. I don't like bras, they're evil. But what is it, if even if you just know the base layers, you're like, I'm just going to do my base layers in the night before, and then I'm ready to go in the morning. I can at least put those on without having to think, and then be like, what clothes do I actually want to deal with today? And occasionally I put my whole outfit out, and it does feel awesome, like getting up in the morning and being able to put on everything that you decided, like having it all hung up ready to go on one hanger and things, is wonderful. But at the moment I'm mainly sniffing the paint top and deciding if it's still clean enough, and if not, putting it in the laundry basket, getting the next one out. And sometimes you can't tell till the next morning whether it was the hose that you were covered in or sweat. So in Jazzland at the moment, so it might have dried out fine. But yeah, having anything like that you can do that makes the actions in the morning be able to be that little bit more brain dead is wonderful. I also think I'm understanding whether you're a night owl or like a morning person as well. I'm definitely a night owl, so the more prep I can do in the evening, the better. Whereas some people are naturally morning people. That's their circadian rhythm. They're not a myth, unfortunately. There are people that like mornings. But that actually stems back to one of my favourite topics, which is the caves. When we were in the caves, we needed people with different circadian rhythms, so that some people were awake when others were asleep, and some people were asleep when others were awake, to keep out for the woolly mammoths and the saber-toothed tigers and things. You can tell that's very historically accurate. The concept is, anyway. So you might be that you're actually like, the idea of doing any prep in the night is horrendous. I'm a morning person. I'd rather just get up and crack on, and I'm up before everyone else, so no one else is in the way, or I don't have to, like, the cats are small enough, I can beat them out of the way. It's fine. But factoring that all in, remembering, as with the morning, realistic and serves your needs. Realistic and serves your needs. So get that evening one done, compare it with your morning one, and then make any adjustments that you need to. But also allow yourself to muck up when you start doing it and see flaws in what you've created. Like, that's part of the creation process. And not thinking that, oh well, it hasn't worked for 2 days, it's not going to work. Or if you have like 3 weeks of great and then you have a week of it all going a bit pear-shaped, look at it, assess it, being like, has it just been one of those weeks, or are there changes I need to make? And then crack back on. And I think journaling practice is one of the big ones with me. I sometimes won't do any journaling for like 3 months, and then one day I'll be like, I'm ready to journal again, and I'll just carry on. But I used to judge myself hugely and think I was a massive failure because I'd had those 3 months off. And sometimes we do that to ourselves, even if we miss a day of something. Oh, I can't possibly have this habit in my life. I missed a day. And it's just like, yes, you can. Yes, you can. It's okay. Sometimes consistency doesn't need to be every day, or every hour or every minute. And I think there's been a lot of talk about that around like social media posting. It's like, you've got to post consistently, and everyone took that to mean that you had to post like 3 times a day, every day, Monday through Sunday. Whereas actually it was like, well, no, if you're always going to post Monday at 6 o'clock, always post Monday at 6 o'clock, that can be your consistency. And I think it's a good lesson to bring into lots of areas of our lives, is trying to have that being like, my consistency is going to be that I keep picking myself back up and cracking back on, even if it means that I've had a month where I haven't done this habit that I wanted to have in my life. So yeah, I guess for me, Christina said I make a distinction between chronicling and journaling. So for me, journaling is more like, I guess, like brain drains of thoughts and feelings, as opposed to a brain drain of my lists and to-dos. Chronicling I'd probably have like dates and times of, I did this and I did that, would be my, yeah, you're all nodding, that's great. So I very much know what journaling means to me. It's the difference between sort of having a diary, chronicling your thoughts, or chronicling, yeah, what's happened. I'm repeating myself now. And look, we magically filled our half an hour, even though I said it would be shorter. Um, so you've got three days off now. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday to mull it all over. Christina, I'll make sure I get the access to the other ones sorted for you. The turf, let's say, blame the turf. Let's hope it takes. And my water bill's yeah, there's a lot of water going on it. Yeah, water bill always goes up when you get turf. And so I'm just not going to shower while the turf's getting settled. I'll shower at the swimming pool instead. If the bill can go up. We have got 4 more next week. So on Monday, we are looking at reviewing our household basics routine. So the basic things we need to do to keep our house functioning. And that's like cleaning our clothes, buying the food, bit of a tidy up, things like that. We don't need to be Stepford wives with immaculate, perfect houses. Again, it's realistic and it's what serves you. I am that person that likes a really neat and tidy house. And at the moment, if someone came around, you just wouldn't believe it because it's just in chaos. But I will get back there. Claire said, I got minutes and I think, yay! Have a lovely time. Off on an adventure. But don't worry, the replay will go up, and I'm getting much quicker at getting the replays up. It used to be like a couple of days later, and I think I even got yesterday's up before I went to bed. Didn't link it properly, but it was online. No one could see it, but it was online. But yeah, so we're going through that kind of thing on Monday. Then Tuesday, we are looking at finances. So our budgets, sort of going through, putting together, do we know where we are currently at financially, and what we want to be trying to achieve over the next couple of months and things. I just got from choir practice. Oh, cool. We're all choir fans. I actually need to join my church before I can join the choir, but we will get there eventually. That's the one I'm thinking of doing church choir at this time. But if not, I will be finding one somewhere. And yeah, so Tuesday is all checking in with finances. Then where are we? I scrolled too far on my list. So household budgeting. So it's quite a big way of meeting people. Yes, and we stopped going to our old church way before we moved, so I'm really missing it. And we've got a lovely church around the corner, so looking forward to going back to that. Then we're looking at seasonal decluttering on Wednesday, and there's a lot incorporated in that of things that we need to clean and mend and mend for the next season and tidy up from the last season kind of thing. So it's not just sort of seasonal decluttering, but that's the overriding theme of that session. And then on the Thursday, we're doing a yearly goal check-in. So having a deep dive into what we've done with our yearly goals. Are we happy with where our progress is looking at? How far we're in? Are there any that it's better to let go of now, or move to next year now, and not feel that kind of overwhelm and doom and gloom and all that side of things? Because I'm a big believer in the realistic, and we want to feel happy. That's why we're part of a happy lifestyle club. We're not very miserable, but in that is achieving things, is pushing ourselves to achieve our goals, but also having a nice time. Is this a reset you do every year? Yes, it is. So this is the first year we've done the household budgeting in the reset. That's a new session for this year, because it was something I found I always did in September, but I didn't include it officially as part of the reset. So yeah, something we do in the membership every year. And then the other one that's a bit like this as a cluster of sessions is in November. We do our yearly goal setting one. I feel like there's another one some point in the year where there's a cluster of sessions, and I'm now completely joining a bank. Then we have the weekly review, which is like a weekly thing. And then we have the monthly goal setting, which we do every month apart from August. So we have sort of these regular sort of meetups, but some of them, like the monthly goal setting, we set our goals within that session. So it's an hour-long one where we do the thing while we're there. Same with the weekly review. Weekly review is a do the thing while we're there. And the yearly goals is a bit of both. So we have a little bit of sort of workshopy time to do the thing, but But again, it's having that, I think you sit down, you'd be like, I've got an hour to come up with my goals for the next year and plan everything. It's just, yeah, exactly. It just doesn't happen. Whereas starting to jot down notes and think about concepts and inspire ourselves and spark thought and have a conversation around it, and then be able to come back to it. So with the yearly things, I always say clear a space on a wall somewhere, and at the end of each session, like stick the notes up, so that you can go back or somewhere that you walk past them, so you can just look at them a little bit. And we actually split that up a bit more than we do this one, so there's a bit more gaps in between as well to process it all through. So, oh, that's very pretty. Excellent. I am going to leave you all in peace. Have an amazing evening. Have an amazing weekend. And I will see some of you on Monday and some of you on Tuesday. We will do a sing song for you, Claire, in your honour. And I'll make sure that Monday's one goes up super quick. Then you can sit in bed and watch it. Have a lovely weekend, everyone. Stay hydrated, and I'll see you soon. Ta-ta for now.